damn it.
Slow down.
This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLE to get 5% off your first order over $100, one use only. Thank you to our Patreons for supporting us. Please consider becoming a tabler for $2 a month.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yank,
I hope you're all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff...
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 152 of Getting Tabled with your host, Jason the Bruce.
Yes, it's Jason the Bruce, not Jason the Socks. He seems to think that he's too good for us this weekend. How dare he think that? I mean, it's not like I would skip an episode because I'm out with friends. It's just rude. I wasn't out with friends. I was in this house, in the other room. I didn't leave my house at all. We also have George with us because, well, somebody had to be here, and George is the unlucky one.
And it's snowing, and it's cold, and I don't want to go anywhere. I unloaded a ton of pellets in the snow today, and I was very unhappy about that.
Pellets in the snow?
I use a pellet stove to heat my house.
Yeah, but why are you... Oh, you don't mean you're literally unloading them into the snow. Okay.
You know, they delivered a pallet to my house today, and I had to depalletize it into my garage.
The way that you said it, in my head, I'm like he's emptying bags into the literal snow.
That's how you make sawdust. So, yeah.
Welcome to the madhouse, folks.
Right? If you were only listening to what we were talking about before, holy cow. But we're not, so we're going to talk about news.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
So
And we're starting with a very boring story. No, it's not fair.
First and foremost, that bumper, you know, it's like the perfect thing for the news, and this fits that criteria so well.
Oh, yeah.
More countries can now order directly from Steamforged Games.
Yep.
That is huge news when we look at this next part, especially regarding the Bruce.
Yeah, well, that is fair. Like, we are on that list. I don't know how this news got out initially, because I saw a screenshot that Shay had shared with us, which is one of our patrons, which was basically what George just said out loud. And I tried finding that screenshot and I couldn't find it. But what I did find was the actual delivery costs. So it used to be, I believe it was just the US, Canada, and the UK. But there's a huge list of people that you can now order for. Australia and New Zealand, we get free delivery on orders over €200, which is pretty good, really. It's pretty much, it's on par-ish with what TT Combat offer. Theirs is £200, which is obviously not the same.
£100, I thought.
Is it £100? Oh, well, it's not as good then. boo. Hiss, boo.
But I'll say this, though, for you Aussies and Kiwis out there. To get free shipping where you're located at in regards to the world for, you have to spend $200. Or €200. No, it's $200 US. That's, I mean, make a big order, get buddies together, and ship it all at once and free ship. Like, that's really hard to pass up when you're as isolated as you are globally. When you look at the rest of the world,
look, we're kind of used to it. I'm not saying that it makes it okay, but we are kind of used to it. For those that are wondering. €200 is 330 Australian dollars, give or take. Obviously, it depends on where the dollar is at the time that you're making the order and so forth. Realistically, though, let's be fair, you're looking at an army at this price. If, however, you wanted to order just a couple of items, it's a flat postage fee. This is the thing that I do like, and it's $34.90. It's $34.99, so it's €35, which is $60.
Not terrible either.
No, it's nowhere near as bad as it probably should be. That is, it's about $60.
What is a $20 in Australian dollar dues?
Probably 30-ish. I will double check. 20 USD. 31.50.
Okay, so just as a comparison for the viewers, that's what I've been able to approximately ship, the occasional miniature to Bruce for. Is roughly about. I want to say the camera I sent you. I want to say that was $25 shipping.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I mean,
shipping from Australia to the United States, more than anywhere else in the world, shipping from Australia to the United States is offensively expensive, both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can order stuff from further away much cheaper. I don't know why. There just seems to be a thing between the United States and Australia specifically that makes it stupidly offensively expensive.
So here's the thing, right? If you order something from the UK or Europe or whatever, it's going to have multiple stops along the way and get to you.
Yep.
So they can book cheaper flights for their cargo.
Oh, but it's a matter of, like, it's not even a matter of it's half the price. It's a tenth of the price difference.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if I ship something to you, it goes from where I'm at to California, and it gets on a plane and it flies directly to you.
Yeah.
There's of all the flights in the world, and I've looked, going from anywhere in the United States west to Japan, Australia, whatever, those are the most expensive flights in the world. I can go to South America, Europe, Africa, whatever, way cheaper. For some reason, it's just going over the Pacific. And let's be honest, that is a huge span. So
it's a huge span, and generally speaking, it's a span they have to do in one go.
Yeah. So versus like going from the UK to Australia, it can stop in France, then it can hit India, couple places in Asia before it gets unloaded at your doorstep. It's
also realistically, there's probably more shipping lanes from the UK to us than there would be. I don't know of any shipping lanes. I mean, there would have to be some because we export stuff to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. There's not as many.
A lot of the stuff when you're placing an order, it goes on a plane.
Yeah.
Bulk goods.
Welcome to Getting Tabled, where we talk shipping lanes.
Bulk shipments, like a Kickstarter from China, that goes on a shipping container. That's why shipping prices are somewhat reasonable, because it's a bulk shipment, not here's a parcel, put it on a plane like it's a person and fly it in 12 hours.
And that is actually a good point. Generally speaking, everything that comes from the United States generally tends to be individual. I have organized group shipping stuff before. I did a giant base order, and I got asked if I'd be willing to be the location everybody else's went to as well. This is during COVID. And I said yes, because, I mean, why wouldn't I? It helps everybody else out. Right?
So yeah, I mean, I do think it's a great thing that, companies are trying to make an effort to, lack of better words, make the rest of the world more inclusive to them. Because the next part of it is, if you're based in Japan, China, Taiwan, Singapore, or Hong Kong, you can also order from their web store now too.
Yeah. So I mean, this is good. I mean, it is worth noting that some places will already have places in their country to buy it. Like, I know that you can buy Steamforged Games stuff here. This is specifically talking about buying direct. Steamforged Games don't tend to have a lot in the way of exclusive stuff that you can only buy from them, which is good because I don't tend to like that. But if you want to do if you're buying into a game like Warmer Hordes, then you're going to have to make a large order, and this probably means that you're going to be able to save yourself some decent money, because it means that you don't have to fork over the Australia tax, all right?
For sure. Next on our list, Angron from Games Workshop.
Yeah.
But it's Horus Heresy Angron.
Yeah, so there's been a few people with comments on this recently. This was only revealed in the last couple of days. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it looks so much better."
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we finally got the reveal of what's his face for Slaanesh?
Mr. Snake
Fulgrim.
Yeah.
Okay, we finally got the 4 Chaos Primarchs in their Greater Demon forms for 40k, and I pooed on Angron because he's just another Bloodthirster.
Yep.
This is what Angron is. This is what the 40k one should have been, and Horus Heresy, whatever. The one they did for 40k should not have happened. It should have just been this, in my opinion. This looks fantastic.
I genuinely don't understand why they're all receiving different sculpts. That to me makes no sense. Yeah, but that's the thing. Most people aren't playing both games.
I'm going to disagree with you with that. I know.
But if you were playing both games, why would you just not buy the one that you prefer the look of and then just use that in both games?
Well,
why would you ever buy both?
And some people do. The issue is now is the Greater Demon Angron came out for 40k, and that's what people got because this is Angron in his, Chaos form.
Mm.
Well, now you're going to have people like, I want this one, so they're going to go buy this. So I'm wondering if this is... this is a really, douchey move if they intentionally made a better sculpt to get people to buy it again at a higher price.
The skeptical part of me wants to say that it wouldn't shock me.
No, absolutely.
The only reason I'm saying that is because if they weren't doing that, they would have hinted another one was coming, right?
Yeah.
I will say this. Looking at that face, and you'd probably have to open the video to get a good shot of it. That's what I've just done. Also, I should double check. Am I showing it off properly? Yes, I am. Have you seen Legend, the 1980s movie with
way
Tom
long
Cruise in
ago.
it? You know the demon form that Tim Curry has in that movie?
Yeah.
Have a look at the face of Angron.
Oh, yeah. No. That's a solid callback right there, yeah.
I don't think it's deliberate, but it's spitting image. The only thing it's missing is the horns. Personally, I actually disagree with you. I prefer the other one, but at this point, I think I'm the only one on the planet that does. I mean, yes, this is more unique, which is definitely a better thing. Something about the miniature, the wings are going to break, let's be fair. Those wings are never going to survive transport. If you're going to build this so that those wings are magnetized. Don't glue them on, please, because it just won't survive. Whereas at least if you have them magnetized, you can take them on and off for transport, and then you've got a chance that it may actually survive for more than 5 minutes. The wings are, I think I want to say, the best wings they've ever done. But they look insanely delicate.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the 40k Angron versus this Horus Heresy Angron.
Yep.
And yeah, I have to wholeheartedly, with every fiber of my being, disagree with you. I think this Horus Heresy.
Oh, I know I'm in the I know I'm in the minority.
It's so much better. Well, so when you look at the 40k one, he's got the cloven hoof like a Bloodthirster does. He has a different hairstyle than like the Bloodthirsters do because he is Angron.
Yeah.
If you look at the Angron Horus Heresy, he doesn't have the cloven hooves. He has clawed hooves. They look more like actual feet. Like he was a human-shaped Primarch that has now embraced this form of chaos. Versus,
yeah, that's fair.
This is a chaos demon. So, and you get more of his armor. Like if you look at the normal Primarch sculpt for Horus Heresy of Angron, he's wearing his gold armor. they're portraying it with this. If you look at the Angron one, he's just wearing Bloodthirster armor.
You know what I will
Which-
say? The 40k
Yeah.
one looks like it's a further continuation of the corruption of the Horus Heresy one.
I'll give you that argument. The only thing I'll disagree with is the axe. I think the axe on the Horus Heresy one looks phenomenally better. And why would the axe change?
I
Because
actually
it's
agree
axe.
with you. The axe on the Horus Heresy one is
For that
much
fact,
better.
the sword looks way better too.
I actually don't like. I never liked the sword on the Angron. I mean, I
For the
don't think I
40K?
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just something about that sword that feels weird. But the axe is so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, the axe in the 40k one isn't bad, but it's just a chain axe. Where that looks like it's a
scaled up chain
corrupted.
axe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and yes, minis, certain minis are not for everyone's taste and stuff like that. That's why people play the armies they play, is because that's their taste. And I can totally understand why.
I've just seen something that proves one of my points wrong too.
Oh, what's that?
You can't buy one of these and use it for both. The bases are the bases are completely different sizes.
Oh,
One of them is an
Heresy
oval. One of them is an oval. The other one is a circle.
Heresy's
look of it.
oval, I bet. Right?
I think it's the other way around. I mean, it's not entirely clear, but it looks like that's a circle to me on the Heresy one.
Okay. It says 100mm round base on the 40k. So.
Oh, maybe they are the same size then. Okay. No, maybe they are the same.
I don't see specifications on the base.
They
but,
wouldn't. Yeah.
It's just a preview, so.
There are some people that can look at bases and just tell you what size they are. I am not one of those people, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's. But again, it is a better mini in my opinion. Bruce doesn't think so. Drop a comment. Tell us he's right.
I'm not saying that I don't like it. It is a nice looking miniature. I'm just saying I prefer the look of the other one.
Right. So
and that those wings are going to be extremely fragile.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much argument there though.
I just want people to comment. Which one they think's better.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on from Tim Curry, we also have. Oh, I always also say the wings on this one looks much better than the 40k one too. The 40k wings look horrible. Trader's Toll. So Guards for Trader's Toll. My apologies. So this is a new game by Greyfinale Games. They're the ones that made that dungeon crawler game that's based in World War II, the 0200 Hours game. And we've known this has been coming for a while. We haven't really discussed it. And you can change your currency up the top, by the way, if you want to. I think
it's already changed.
Okay, cool. So it's 102 Australian dollars. I don't know what it is for you. You can probably tell me.
Which one? The launch bundle?
The starter set.
The starter set is 65 USD.
Okay, yep. So it works out. So the starter set is exactly that. It's the starter set for the game. So this is a fantasy game. You're playing in what feels like it's a very traditional D&D type town. And you've got really lovely looking miniatures from, I think it's War Games Atlantic from memory.
So
That
I'm just going to throw
sculpted
this out there. I watched the Chris Pine D&D movie again last night, and looking at all the miniatures from the starter set, these just look like all the generic people from that movie in this town.
Yeah,
this
they
is
are.
fantastic.
It's generic town 101. Well, it's generic fantasy town 101. Oh, I love the third picture. Seems to have a guy. It almost looks like the snake that he's holding is coming out of his chest. I mean, it's not, but it's kind of what it looks like.
Although
like
there
the
is one guy that looks like he's wearing glasses.
Which picture?
He's got a green and black tunic with a bowl cut, holding a book open.
Which picture?
Oh, I'm just looking at the main picture. with all the minis at once. He's kind of dead in the middle.
Oh, okay. I will see if I can find it then. Oh, yeah. To be fair, glasses or spectacles have been around much longer than most people realise. They did exist at this point.
That is fair. I would say that's
this is a
probably
fictional time zone.
Yeah, I would say that's probably my only argument. I would say monocles were probably more of a commonplace thing because that was more affordable than.
True.
But beyond that, like this is all fantastic looking stuff. And for some reason, this purple and beige color scheme they've got.
Yeah, I actually really like that as well.
It's so comfortable to look at.
It feels like a storybook.
Yeah,
I kind of want to say that I would love for somebody to paint the miniatures like that, in that kind of two-tone like just to replicate the artwork. I suspect it would be a lot harder to do than I'm thinking it would be. Like grayscale painting is much harder than most people think it is.
Well, just you need black and white and 3 colors of gray in between, and just gradually dry brush it.
I think they could be onto a winner here. So all of these miniatures are multi-part hard plastic too, by the way. 28mm scale. There's 24 city folk, 12 city guards. It's 102. It's 112 page rulebook. Like, so it's a decent thickness for the rulebook.
Well, and here's another thing I'm going to point out too. If the picture is accurate, looking at the rulebook, it's got a seam right next to the spine. Like they've designed it to push it open and push it flat. Yeah, like it's little things like that where it's like they've taken the time and spent that little extra and like.
What do people appreciate about books? People people will be willing to pay for this.
Yeah, unless it's a really good hardbound, because hardbound books lay open really nicely. In my opinion, if it's a paperback rule book, freaking spiral bind that thing. That way it just lays flat and you don't have to worry about pages falling out.
Yeah. There's also an expansion available. Obviously, there is also the launch bundle, which gives you both and then lets you save a little bit of money. The expansion gives you a further 24 multi-part miniatures. There's 12 more city folk and 12 more guards. It's just, I mean, I don't mean this in a negative sense, but it's just more of what we were just looking at. In the case of, like, there's quite literally, like, it's exactly the same blacksmith sculpt, exactly the same mage sculpt as far as I can tell. I might go back and double check that. No, they're the same.
Yeah, so in total, the big bundle is 60 multi-part 28mm plastic figures, 36 city folk, and 24 city guards. There's also an additional special drunken dwarf figure.
There is? I missed that. Oh, yeah.
You can buy him separate, but he comes in the big bundle.
That is cool.
And let me tell you something. Like, as a how do I want to say this? As a dwarf aficionado, that is a stereotype drunk dwarf right there.
Yeah. I appreciate that they've made you for the game.
This looks great. And like I said, I don't know. They're beige and purple color scheme. It's just so comfortable to look at.
I really, really like it. It like I said, it kind of feels like a traditional children's storybook. Like not full color, like just it's a fairly cheap book that you've bought for your kids, almost like fabric printed type material.
So I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people will probably yell at me because I'm not the biggest I don't have the greatest amount of knowledge on this, but part of this feels like this is like someone created this and designed it based off of Terry Pratchett's work.
That's fair. That's fair.
It has that very 80s feel-ish to it, like his stuff.
Yeah. By the way, in the run sheet, did you notice the Terry Pratchett reference?
I did not.
I'm disappointed. I had a feeling you wouldn't. I will
No,
mention what it is later.
I know who he is. I know he's most well known for Discworld. That's the limit of my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I just know that, it's older intellectual property that has a very specific classic look to it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I really like the look of this. There is actually a preview, like there's a free gameplay overview that you can download. I might actually just click on that just so that we can get a look at it. You can quite literally download, and it just kind of gives you a brief overview of how the game actually works. So if you don't want to invest without knowing what it is, then you don't have to. But I'm going to move on to what on the run sheet I called Guards, because that's quite literally the name of a Terry Pratchett book from Discworld.
Okay.
Everybody tell George how disappointed you are.
Hey, as many things as I reference, for me to just not know one thing, I think is okay.
No. My mistakes is okay. Everybody else's must be pointed out. Like, this is Fantasy Guards, right?
Mm-hmm.
It fits the previous what we were just looking at really nicely, ironically.
It's a little more Spanish looking, but
I would say that these are also a little bit more detailed. But what you will notice in the Guards one, if you go to picture number 4, it's quite literally the same blacksmith. Where's the blacksmith?
Blacksmith.
So there's a blacksmith in the Guards of Trader's Toll. And in the Guards,
I found him.
Picture number 4, where they're all standing amongst like the water wheel and the boxes and stuff, there's a blacksmith in the middle.
Hang on a second. Okay, I'm trying
it's
to find
quite literally the same sculpt. It's a bald guy with a beard that's holding a hammer down here, and he's
yeah. Oh, okay. I found it for Traders and Toll. That is the same sculpt.
Yeah, so I was right. It is Atlantic. It's War Games Atlantic that did the miniatures.
That is 100% the same sculpt.
Yeah, which is fine. It's good to see that they're being used elsewhere.
It makes sense. Well, and it makes sense too, because if one company has, fixtures and molds in place and the ability to do this stuff,
why not license them?
Why not hire them out to do your stuff instead of you starting it up from scratch?
Yep. I like the fact that War Games Atlantic actually show off their sprues as well, because not everybody does that, but I really like that they do it. And it's a really tight-looking sprue, honestly.
From the guy that hates the tactical rock base.
Yes.
And that stuff, I do love seeing a sprue of, like, how embedded is the rock? Can I easily remove it? Can I manipulate it to my whims? And just seeing what is all available on the sprue, too, because some of the extra bits and bobs that, like, the first bit of sprue here, right? The very bottom left panel, you got 3 heads. You got a set of handcuffs.
Yep. Just hang them from somebody's belt, or have them on the ground.
Or since one of them is open,
put them around the handcuff of somebody.
You could probably actually handcuff a mini. Yeah, it's little additions like that on the sprue that aren't necessarily needed, and might not go on the model, but could be used for something else. Like those little things like that, where it's like we have space for it. Let's do this.
Yeah. One line up and then one line to the right. There is what looks like a chain collar as well.
That's connected to an arm.
Is it? Oh, okay. Never mind. So
yeah.
It's a rope of some kind then.
But there's no reason why you couldn't cut the arm off, round off the hand,
True.
Add some texture like it's more rope, and then attach it to a belt or a backpack.
Well, there is actually a rope on the other side as well that you would probably use for that.
Yep, there you go.
I really like what they're doing here. Oh, next to the handcuff, I couldn't quite figure out what it is. If you go to the second picture of the sprue, It's keys.
So I just saw something even better, Bruce.
Yeah.
So the handcuff and keys, right? Go up 1, 2, 3.
Oh, the goose.
Look at what's right there. Look what's there. The most dangerous animal ever. A goose.
Yep. Beast of War, when they were talking about this on the Weekender, actually pointed out that Romans used to use geese as guard dogs.
Have you met them?
Oh, yeah. And that's why they used to do it.
God. These things are vicious.
Oh, yeah. One of them bit my sister at one point when she was little. She's always been scared of geese ever since. And I can't blame her, really. We also have villages as well. And given what we were just looking at, I suspect that I'm going to find that some of this is the same. Yep.
I was going to say,
there's
yeah,
the blacksmith
dude
right in the front there.
Well, I was going to say, dude with the monocle and like he's kind of blonde.
Yeah.
He's got the smoking pipe and everything like that. He's in the guards of Trader Soul too. Like, yeah, he's.
Yeah. I have no problem with this. Like, hey, you make this, you're going to be releasing this, or you need to make this. We're quite happy to sculpt this, but we'd also like to sell it as one of our products. Sure, go right ahead. And then it's just slightly cheaper in your game, right? As you put everything together. Because, hey, maybe I really like those miniatures, but maybe this isn't the sort of game that I want to play with them. Maybe I just want to play D&D. Maybe I don't want to have to buy an entire board game just to get the miniatures for it.
Yep. No, for sure.
And again, like, I want to say the War Games Atlantic ones are painted a little bit nicer. I don't know if that's entirely true.
Well, again, is that entirely fair? Because War Games Atlantic, what do? They make minis, so there's the chance that they have more access to or a better staff painter than, say, the people that are doing. Actually, I'm looking.
No, I think they're quite literally the same painted.
It's the same paint jobs. It's the same paint jobs.
It's the way that they've been photographed. The photographs, because they're within the terrain and it's not that harsh lighting that you're getting with the other one, where it's quite literally. See, the Grey for Now ones, they've very clearly been photographed in an actual photo
White
booth
box.
and then pasted together. The other ones look better because they've actually been photographed on the table.
Yeah.
Also, really nice looking table.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, so as far as like just generic minis go too, for like D&D and stuff like that, these look absolutely great as well, I think.
War Games Atlantic seem to be releasing new stuff every 3 minutes lately, which is just hilarious. I'm exaggerating, obviously. Because War Games Atlantic is also the people that are doing the miniatures for the next thing we're going to be talking about. Because I briefly want to discuss Blood on the Sands again, because the campaign's actually live.
And successfully funded.
They're doing really, really well. On a selfish note, I look at this and go, oh, and I have backed this, by the way. On a selfish note, I look at this as, hey, this gives me hope, because this is someone that's quite literally done what I'm currently trying to do from the same area of the world that I'm doing it from.
Yep.
And it's like, so there is actually a chance I could do this. Oh, this is great. And he's not someone that does sculpting. Somebody else has done the sculpting of the miniatures for him, which is what I'm hoping I can have done at some point. He has a historical game. I have a more pop culture game in mind. But it just gives me hope, right? Entropy City is a possibility that it could happen. This is proof that it could happen.
Absolutely.
The page itself looks really, really nice. There's not much in this that we hadn't already seen when we last looked at it, except I don't think that arena was available.
I was just about to say, can we talk about this laser cut MDF arena?
It's made by Sarissa Precision.
That looks really good.
Yeah.
Again,
it is phenomenal.
it is so simple, and it looks way better than it should.
Yep.
For as simple as it is. That's brilliant.
Yeah. It's really, really nice. I also love the fact that you can just buy just the hex grid, because maybe you don't want the arena. Does the arena add to the game? No, of course it doesn't. An arena doesn't add to a game of Blood Bowl either. It looks really cool, but it doesn't add to the game at all. But
it doesn't add to the game, but it adds
looks so
to
good.
the game.
Yeah, I know. But not every... Like, some people only want what they need to play a game.
Yep.
Especially if you're someone like me that has to travel on a... MDF terrain does not travel on a motorbike very well, because it vibrates and it will have breakages.
I would argue the only terrain that would travel well for you on your bike is that one Kickstarter that I backed and ultimately didn't get anything on. That's literally like the pop-up book stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because it collapses down into the shape of a book, which you can put into a backpack pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's about the only terrain you can travel with easily. Anything else?
Yeah. So, we've already seen what comes in the box set and stuff. So you're looking at 145 Australian dollars for the main box set, which I think is fairly reasonable. There have been a few people that's been like, hey, is there some cheaper options? I'm quite happy with the price of that. I'm just curious. So it's around $92 US. That doesn't include shipping, obviously. For an indie game, I think that's more than reasonable. So,
with what the going rate on board games now, right? $100 seems to be $100 US seems to be like the pretty solid amount now. I want to say, let me pull it up.
This is also hard plastic multi-part miniatures too. It's not CMON. It comes as it is, and you get it the way it is. Though CMON miniatures are lovely, but there is a definite upgrade when it's a hard plastic miniature.
And you can customize a little bit, yeah, for sure. I'm looking at this real quick because they're currently kickstarting, and I'm trying to find the core price for this, because I do want to back it, but I can't. $110 for the core of the Massive Darkness campaign going.
Oh, right, yep. I was confused what you were talking about for a second.
$100, that's what the Cthulhu core box was for this most recent campaign. Like, $100 seems to be the going rate of, a core game these days. So for them to come in at $95 US on a Kickstarter, because I was looking at the ultimate 2-player bundle, which is about $207.
Yep,
that's a 2-player bundle. That's $100 a person.
And you get an extra box of miniatures. You get the full-on arena set with an extra MDF ring, so you can have one each, I guess. One of the unlocks that they haven't actually shown yet, but I saw in the comments, is that one of the later unlocks is going to be for the rules to be spiral bound, if they get to it. That is a later unlock that they've teased. I really like that, but I also like the fact that they're leaving it till last. Well, if they're leaving it, because that's not that adds a lot of risk, right? Because there's then the potential that it could tear in shipping and so you want to leave that till last because you're taking a lot of risk with that. But it's so nice.
Rewind many years when a little game called Drop Fleet Commander came out, and it had the rule book. It had the rule book that was long ways like a flight technical manual, right?
Yep.
The first thing I went and had that spiral bound. So right off the bat, like the rule book's like $30-$40 or something like that. For me to go to my local copy shop and say, cut the spine off, spiral bound it, that was an additional $20.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Now, so the more you do, the more the cost goes down.
Yeah.
But spiral bounding a book is a cost add-on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is a great cost add-on, but it raises that's why you see, companies do a hardbound book if possible, because that is the value for the money. A hardbound book, like, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
You've got the nice spine that you can read. It's got the crease in it. It's got the fabric holding the pages together. You got stitching. Like, that is the most premium. Behind that is spiral bound. It looks terrible, but it is the most functional.
Yes,
So.
it's the most functional. Over time, with a hardbound book, it will eventually give way. There is no way around that. It's just something that happens. Do some books last longer than others? Yes. But it will ultimately happen to every book that you own. It's just a fact of life.
I will also argue hardbound rule books for these games now, you'll never wear them out because they're constantly doing rules updates, and before you can even come close to wearing one out, they're releasing a new one you have to buy. So
that is true. That happens less in the indie space, though, to be fair.
To be fair, yeah, I'll agree with you on that.
Last thing on this I want to touch on is just the shipping, which I know is a boring subject, but it's something that's it's a concern that a lot of people have at this point because shipping has increased cost over time. So the way that they are handling it is they are setting up hubs for everything to be shipped from. There's already one in Australia that's been confirmed. There's already one in the US to be confirmed. There will be one in the UK and there will be one in Europe, but they have not confirmed what they are yet. So shipping for this should be very reasonable. There is absolutely nothing on the cost of shipping at this stage, and we will not know what that's going to be until the backer kit. It's just a fact of life.
To be fair, too, and they just opened the pledge manager on the newest Cthulhu stuff. They don't know until they're ready to commit to it. Even Simon, who has done countless of crowdfundings, who have this down to a science and an art form, still cannot, predict.
No, and when this is the first thing that you've ever done, you can't predict that. I mean, you could do all the research in the world. Drop Bear, pure example. You could do all the research in the world. It's one of the things he was really proud of, that he did all of the research to try to prevent this sort of thing from happening.
And it was literally the last thing that he had to overcome.
Yeah, because
everything
that's
else
how
was
the world
successful,
works.
no problem. And he has the product. He's ready to get to his backers, and it's like, crap, now I can't because of this.
Yep. So, there we are. I just got... it's gone live. It's something that we had talked about. Look, we actually had a few people commenting that they were happy that we talked about it. So I just wanted to
I think it was them.
They also did, but there were other general comments that we got as well.
So,
up next is something I did know about, but you pointed out this morning. There's a Gundam game coming out.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you a Tau player and hate being bullied by the rest of the 40K players? Here's a game for you.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I will say first and foremost, I'm not a Gundam person. I'm just not. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just admitting that I'm not a Gunpla person. I never have been. I completely understand the hobby. I would argue that it is our hobby stepped up to 11, but there's no game attached. Now there's a game attached.
I was going to say the same thing. I don't watch the animes. I can understand why people do like them because there are some animes I do love. I could totally get that. I was in Japan. I could actually go get some of these models, and holy cow, some of these models are just mind-blowing with the complexity and detail. And I'm surprised that we haven't seen this sooner in the hobby space as far as a game based off this.
Yeah. This is the thing that kind of... Like, we had a conversation a couple of years ago, and I think we should revisit the topic at some point, about, like, universes that deserve a game. This never even occurred to me. And kind of like... Because, like, the He-Man was the one that we brought, and it actually, ironically, ended up happening. I'm not saying
2 months after we said it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I'm not saying that it's because we talked about it. No. Like, 100%, there's no way that either of them even knew that we existed.
Mm-hmm.
But this didn't occur to me at all. And I mean, that's because I'm not really a Gundam person, but that
Say it.
probably makes more sense than anything that we discussed.
So, and I will go as far as to say this, and JP can unfriend me and think I'm the worst person ever. I think this looks better and would be a better game to play than Battle Mech.
Sure. I mean, Battle Mech has a history in the hobby, right? Although it's not called Battle Mech.
Or BattleTech or whatever. Or
BattleTech, thank you. Yeah. But this just makes sense. The actual thing that you had pointed out was an article by Polygon, which is it's just a very small article talking about the fact that the game is coming. The thing that because Bandai are actually doing this themselves, so that's an interesting thing. Like Bandai have a history in miniatures. Well, not miniatures. They make the Gundam kits. It'll be the first time they've made a game that I know of. I mean, they do a lot of card games. I don't know of a miniature game they've ever done. But they're doing what I would argue is the smartest thing to do. They're starting small. This is something that I would argue is going to be a risk for them. I'm not saying it's a huge risk. But it's going to have a small footprint, card-based skirmish miniatures. So they're kind of saying that it's... Well, Polygon are saying, not Bandai, Polygon are saying that it's going to be somewhere along the lines of Warhammer Underworlds. So you're looking at 4 or 5 miniatures aside, by the look of it. Miniatures are going to be around 2 inches tall, so they are going to be fairly simple. But I think realistically, I mean, you talk BattleTech, I think that's because that's basically where my mind goes. Because it's a hex-based game, very clearly, because the miniatures are on hexes. And it's a mech game. How can you not think of BattleTech?
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea what the game is going to be like at this point. I would be very surprised if it doesn't share a lot of mechanics with something else on the market. I don't know what that would be. But if you're going to enter a market that you haven't been part of, you need to make sure that you have something solid. Also, everything's been done before. So borrow what you can. It's going to be interesting to see what this turns out to be. I would probably argue that the biggest market for this is going to be Japan.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is not a really
Japan,
huge scene in the tabletop community.
Yeah, as far as like some of the stuff Games Workshop has done to get themselves in that market, you know, where they do a lot of the blind packs and stuff like that, like the gambling, because gambling is a huge thing in Japan.
Yeah.
But this is just, it screams the Japanese market, because I mean, like I was in Okinawa for a year and a half. I got to, you know, experience a lot of that culture, and the fact that you could go to a hobby store in Japan just like you can here in the United States, you know, for the regional hobbies, and there's Games Workshop stores here, right?
Yep.
You've got one. You can go. It's all Games Workshop stuff. You can go into a store in Japan, and all it is Gundam stuff.
Yep.
So that's how big it is, and so for them to, I'm surprised they haven't done this sooner, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it never even occurred to me that it didn't exist, because it's not where my head was. But it just makes so much sense. I like the fact that they are doing it because it's theirs, rather than somebody having licensed it. Mm-hmm. In saying that, again, this is a risk for them. It's a completely new market. Granted, it shares a lot with the market that they have. I mean, people could just buy this and then build the miniatures. It wouldn't surprise me. But it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Now, so I'm going to say this right now. My favorite anime is Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
As apparent by the names of one of my dogs, who is a corgi, who's named Ein. as the Corgi is in the Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
I now want to see a board game, Cowboy Bebop, kind of like Cthulhu, where you have your different bounty hunting episodes, and you can play as the characters of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Try to complete this bounty hunting mission. I want to see that now. After seeing this, there's no reason why we couldn't see something like that now.
I'm actually surprised we haven't had that already.
Again, same thing with this. Why is it this?
We should revisit this topic at some point. Because anime is another huge one that you could take. I don't recall anybody doing a Neon Genesis one. That's probably harder to do because there's less... if you're going to do it from the mech side of Ghost in the Shell would work very well.
Oh my god.
Board game especially.
Yeah, board game or miniature game or... Oh my god, that would work so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to revisit this topic sometime. Oh.
Also, just one last thing. I really like the Gundam Ascendal logo. I mean, it's a very simple logo, but all the best logos are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think that looks great. The only thing I will say is that if you're going to do that, the A in the name should look like the A in the logo. I realise that
G too. Yeah.
Well, you've created a font for the logo. Why are you not using that font for the wording?
Probably because the font for the wording is already in place for the actual.
Yeah, I don't. It just seems silly to me. But although in saying that, that would also mean that you've got to split the actual thing over the top of it. So maybe that doesn't work. Okay, no, I take that comment back. I was being nitpicky, but I actually disagree with myself now.
I'm just looking real quick. Because I want to say that again, I'm not the biggest fan of this, but I want to say that that's the same. Okay, it's not the same font. So yeah, I don't know why. But the logo is pretty spot on for sure.
Yeah, I really like the logo.
Indy, definition, independent, type, slang word, jargon.
Every so often, we look at an indie where I'm kind of like, I'm surprised I haven't done this already. And this is kind of one of those ones that realistically, I probably should have done a long time ago. Osprey Publishing have been a thing in this space for a while. When most people think Osprey games, they think Frostgrave, Stargrave, etc., right? But Osprey games have so many games. It's not even funny. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, yes, you've got specific contributors and stuff, but just hover over Osprey Publishing for a moment and then look down. Browse by series. Air campaigns. Dogfights. Men-at-Arms. New Vanguard. X-Planes. Medieval Warfare. Modern Warfare. Napoleonic. World War 1 and 2. This isn't even talking about all of the sci-fi and the fantasy stuff that they have. They quite literally have more games than you will ever possibly play. If you have some miniatures for a game that you don't really enjoy, or a game that you're kind of bored of, you could go hunting for a new rule set and never have to buy a new miniature ever again.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that everything Osprey has ever published is gold must play, but they have a lot of stuff in there that is well worth looking at your time. I'm just going to start by clicking on Osprey Games.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go Osprey Publishing. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Okay.
So we have up here in the front, just to look at what's available this month. This is new stuff. We've got 4 things straight off the bat. German troops in the American Revolution. Boots on the Ground, which is very clearly a modern warfare game. Crescent Dawn, which is, obviously, again, it's another world. A war. Second Arachnian. Historics. You can keep on going. Not all of these are rule sets, but a lot of this is. You can look at... Like, we're only looking at the new stuff here, and you're already getting tons.
Holy smokes, yeah.
Tons of stuff. So, I should probably have a look. Let's have a look at Frostgrave. Because this is what most people think of, right? I mean, we've talked about Frostgrave in the past. It's a pretty serious... Like, we haven't covered it in a while, but it's a pretty large game at this point. Joseph McCulloch has become a name in and of himself, and this is where he comes from. You've got so many expansions for this game. It is huge. You could play this game forever. Frostgrave 2nd Edition was designed specifically so you could still use all of your old expansions. It's probably one of the most customer-focused games I've ever seen. It's kind of like it's halfway between like a role-playing game and a miniatures game, because it's all D20 based. And just looking through these books, the amount of expansions that this has, anything that you could ever possibly want.
I've gone through 3 pages of books for Frostgrave. Like,
yeah,
it's
like there's an undead expansion. There is a giant polar bear in one of them. There's a spin-off to this where it's
23 books for Frostgrave.
Yeah, it's insane. While we're here, we can now click on War Games up the top, and it'll just bring us to everything wargaming. So this is also the people that do the publishing for Bolt Action, which is War Games. No, it's Warlord, sorry. Stargrave is also there, which is Frostgrave, but in space. Freaks. These guys also publish the Burrows and Badgers game. But that's... Oh, there we go, Oathmark. Silver Bayonet, which is one of the other games that Joseph originally wrote. There's expansions for that. For the Italy one is there right at the top of the page. There's also an Egyptian one. I think they did the UK one most recently, and it's based around Napoleon times, but with a fantasy, almost Cthulhu-esque spin on it, which is quite nice. Let's go Silver Bayonet for a little bit. I haven't played Silver Bayonet, but it sounds really, really interesting. So Silver Bayonet, like I said, it's based around Napoleonic's era, but with a twist. So far we have Italy, Egypt, Canada, the Carpathians, and all of this is basically taking all of the myths and legends from that sort of area and gamifying it. So, most obvious one for Canada for me would be Bigfoot. I know that they don't call it Bigfoot, they call it something else, but they also have that myth. It's a fairly widespread myth because, you know, Bigfoot comes from everywhere, even though there's only one of it.
Sasquatch, Yeti.
Sasquatch, thank you. Yep. There's a whole series of like weird World War ones as well that I can't seem to find at the moment. There's a lot of like pulpy ones. Like there's a few games. If you go hunting, there's like stuff based in like sci-fi 1920s, like what sci-fi would be written like at that point. If you wanted to play something that feels very like 1950s sci-fi, you can do that. There's rule sets for that. These guys publish everything. It's insane. If I go Osprey Publishing, let's go Dogfight. Just because it's a very random term. How many dogfighting games can there be?
Not that many.
Well, Battle of Britain, it's a fairly obvious one. Defense of the Reich, it's a fairly obvious one. New Guinea and the Solomons. Wildcat, so then we've gone straight from World Wars straight into modern, well, more modern times, I suppose. It's still war times. Fishbed is the 60s. Crusader is the 70s. So all of this is historic so far. Philippines, Korea, Blitzkrieg, more Blitzkrieg. I don't know why that's on there twice. Northwest Europe. So it's all these different areas that you could be fighting in. And essentially this is all like the one sort of different game, but it's different rule sets for everything, right? And there's a lot that we're not looking at the moment. They've got a whole series of modelling books as well. I'm just kind of going through the list here. Raid, Warrior. I want games by series. There's a specific book I'm trying to find. War Games is where I started. Osprey War Games. Aha! I found it. So if you go back to the War Games page, you can get Osprey War Games. Right at the top of the page, When Nightmares Come. This is definitely not Stranger Things. I don't know why you would even suggest that, George. But it's definitely not. It's definitely not that. It's like, in saying that there's somebody there with a beard that's clearly not a kid, but it's clearly the vibe they're going for there, right? Investigative war game and supernatural horror. It's Lovecraftian too, I suppose.
Yeah, I would argue Stranger Things is very Lovecraftian. So,
true.
There's certain things where it's just like, like fantasy. That's Tolkien. Tolkien is responsible. This modern horror investigation stuff. That's all because of Lovecraft and Cthulhu. Like, yeah. So I mean, I'm a little blown away of how much is here.
The only thing they do is rule books, right? All of these are written by different people. They are just a publishing house. So hypothetically, if I get to the point where Entropy City is ready to go, this could, in theory, be one of the places I sold my game to. In theory.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just like that's the sort of business that they are.
Yeah, which you get Osprey to publish the book. You get War Games and Yank to make your minis, and Seressive Precision to make your terrain. There you go. You've
Seressive
outsourced
Precision
it all.
already make the terrain that's appropriate for it. So did TT Combat.
That's why I said it. So literally, you can literally create a game and outsource the manufacture of it, and you're just get your licensing money.
Potentially. Further down that list, we have one that is with hot lead and cold steel, which is the American Civil War. Hey, it's a new rule set for the American Civil War. I mean, there's probably 30 of them, but this is another one. We also have Pulp, which is what I was kind of hinting at earlier. This is the one I was trying to find. This is kind of like it's the 1940s sci-fi type feel. Enter a world of perilous adventure and explore steaming jungles and desert canyons. It is that kind of feel.
It's very Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones.
Yep. Castles in the Sky is... I want to say this is very anime. This is quite literally, it's your naval ships flying in the sky type stuff. What have you
Bruce, real quick, not to take away from Osprey here, but also we need a cooperative, like the way Cthulhu set up with different episodes, but yeah. Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Yep.
Pick the Nazis, pick the Russians, pick the thing you're going after,
James Bond.
Anyways. Well,
there's probably just as much in that world as there is... There has to have been a James Bond board game at some point, right? 7 TV would be the place for that, I suppose. Just while you're looking at that, I mean, Absolute Emperor is Napoleonics. Wars of the Republic is Ancient Rome, I think? Yeah, it's Ancient Rome. Like, they have lots of historics, they have lots of different sci-fis. A Billion Suns is one that we've spoken of before. It's kind of Drop Fleet-ish. Zone Alpha is Drop Squad-ish. Speaking of which, we have news on that later. So there's lots and lots here. I'm only scratching the surface here. Gaslands, they post that they are the ones that publish Gaslands.
Yeah, that's another one I remember hearing, Gaslands.
Yeah, that's the one where you're playing with Matchbox cars.
Yes.
That you, in theory, customize.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, this is the game that you say, in theory, saved Hot Wheels.
Yeah. On the Seven Seas is Pirates. A Fistful of Kung Fu. Would you like to play a Bruce Lee game? Here's a Bruce Lee game for you.
I wouldn't like to play a Bruce Lee game. I'd really like to play a Kung Pao Enter the Fist game, though.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it with that. Ronin, fairly obvious. Of Gods and Mortals, again, very, very obvious.
I love the fact that this company has said, we're just going to do this, and, piggyback off. I mean, I mean,
it's a book house that has an entire wargaming arm. I mean, I'm not saying that they're the only ones that do it, but this is the one that you think of.
But, I mean, they're piggybacking off of all these other companies' essential hard work and financial sink of the miniatures, and they're just making rule sets.
Yeah. I mean, you've created a game, you don't have a way of publishing it, then this is someone that could get that published for you.
Yeah.
In theory.
For sure.
I mean, there are other ways of doing it. I just thought it was one that was worth looking at because there's so much stuff here. Like, there's 34 different pages of rule sets, and that's just on the Osprey Wargame stuff. That doesn't even cover the stuff that we already looked at. There's so much here.
Plus, just whoever else's stuff they're publishing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Frostgrave is a whole thing in and of itself. Stargrave is a whole thing in and of itself. Silver Bayonet is on that warpath as well. There's so much here. Like, you could get lost in this website for hours. We're not going to, but you could quite literally get lost in this website for hours.
Yes.
If you own miniatures and you're really kind of sick of whatever the game is that they came with, you can find something here that will fit. The Doomed.
Probably.
Yeah, no, 100% you can. So, that's that. I think it's time to discuss some hobby.
Cream, glue, prime, paint.
I suspect that we may not have a lot of hobby this episode.
Actually.
Oh, yes?
So, I put together all of my Fire Slayers.
Nice.
Do you care to fancy a guess at how many points of Fire Slayers I have right now?
2.5 grand.
2,500 points.
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
So I need.
You just said I need to buy. So clearly it's not 2,000 points. It's clearly less than that.
No. So I need to buy a couple of heroes, another unit, and I can't remember what it's called. The pizza oven, and the spell things, right? But right now, I am currently sitting at a comfortable 3,870 points of Fire Slayers. So by the time I'm done, I think I'm going to have something. I'm well over the neighborhood of 4,000. Now here's the funny part, Bruce. Are you ready for the funny part?
Probably not.
So, the basic troop, the Volkite Berserkers. I built them all based off the previous edition. Wielding their axes.
Yep.
I got to look at the new rule set, and I'm like, oh no, the dual axes are good, but the shield guys are actually good in this edition too. Crap. Because what's the one thing I've been trying to do, Bruce? not keep things around, so I had tossed all my plastic.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I found a guy on eBay. Literally, I think the guy just buys kits, clips the parts, and then sells those parts.
Yeah.
I spent $60 for two 20-man squads. So essentially, like buying one more kit, I spent on just shields. So I had to go through, and I'll do this for dramatic effect. I had to break off all the little axes and glue on the picks and shields to 20 berserkers. Now I've got axes all over the place. I shouldn't have done that. My robot vacuum is going to make so much noise next time it comes through here. So I did that. So, but yeah, I have 3,870 points of Fire Slayers.
Nice.
And I started painting more on one of the Magma Droths. I started putting some primer on the smaller scales. So I'm going to do the light gray, dry brush some white on, then hit it with a dark red speed paint from Army Painter.
Yep. You gonna go slaughter red or not quite that dark?
A dark red, like
the cold red type red.
Like almost burgundy dark red.
Yeah, so like slaughter red.
Yeah, I if there's a darker one, probably that even. I'll have to look. So, what else was there? I broke out. So, also my 3,870 points of Fire Slayers is also inaccurate because the store anniversary miniature that was a Fire Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
I opened the box and I put the mini together.
Yep.
That's the first, and I just got my my Warhammer Plus minis, the newest ones. I just got those in the other day.
Nice.
So I've still got all those except for the one that I was nice and sent to Ben. I've still got all those, but I've finally opened and put together one of the commemorative series minis I have from Games Workshop.
I forgot that you were getting those.
Part of it is I've been forgetting to cancel the membership, but on the other hand too, I'm just like, I'm paying this much, and then for a couple bucks more, I get 2 limited print minis, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's something Sam will have to deal with at some point, probably.
That's fair. So I wasn't here last episode, so I kind of have a little bit of backlog. You will see that on the video edition, you'll see that I went off camera so I can go and grab some stuff because I forgot to grab it earlier. First and foremost, there was a video that was released this week because after about 7 months, 8 months, how long ago was July? I finally finished.
Last year.
I finally finished my Smurfs, which you're not going to see very well, but they are all in here and all done. I have a way of transporting them because I was smart and I put them in a box. I actually, this is speed painted. Nope, that's a fox. So this is all speed painted. It's all fairly rudimentary. I know that it's not going to show up awesome because of the way my lighting is.
I'm going to ask for the viewers. Is it just base coat speed paint? Is it slap chop speed paint? Is it double slap chop speed paint?
It's just base coat speed paint. So it's fairly standard rudimentary. My goal for the video was if you wanted to do. It's the first time I've ever really tried to show myself painting on camera at all, like properly painting. I always knew it was difficult.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah, I kept on hitting my phone with my paintbrush, which was really annoying. But my goal for it was more because these are the brushes that I was using. This one is basically stuffed. The other one is like a $4, $5 brush. My main goal was to kind of show, look, hey, you don't actually have to have super expensive stuff to get results. So long as you're careful with it, and I mean, quite literally, this is all speed painted. Is there stuff that I should probably highlight? Yes. I mean, the tree definitely needs to get some highlights. But you can get decent results with just simple tools. You just have to take your time and be careful with it.
So, filming yourself painting, Bruce.
Yep.
So I'm coming to realize that I'm getting to the point I need vision assistance because I'm getting old. So I got myself one of these magnifying things.
Yeah.
It also has a built-in light.
Oh, nice.
But then I realized I could clamp a GoPro to it, and so where I'm looking through here so I can see what I'm doing, I have the GoPro pointed at the same spot.
Oh, that's clever.
So I was trying that out today earlier too. So I'll have to get that loaded up to check it out. It wasn't working so well because it was the big magma droth, which does take up a little space. But working on a normal troop like a Fire Slayer or something like that, I might be able to do some of that stuff and videotape some experimenting of how to make something look good for as little skill possible.
Yeah. The other thing that I've completed recently, I kind of hinted at this, but I'm not going to pull these out just because it'll be a bit of a nightmare. I finished all of my original Moonstone minis finally. This took me way longer than it should have. I bought these years ago at this point. And it's all foam protected so I can actually travel with it. This was probably the big thing for me, is that because these are really delicate minis, I didn't have a way of transporting them. And magnets wasn't going to be the solution with these guys, because it quite frequently magnets can work, but on a motorbike, it's not quite as safe as you think it is because everything still vibrates, and once it comes off, it flies. If those magnets get free from whatever they're stuck to, the miniature will then fly into whatever it hits next. So foam was definitely the answer for this one. I also... Actually, I'll come back to that... Yeah, no, I'll come to this now. So this is a quick reference sheet for Entropy City. And hey, it looks all pretty.
Because you laminated it?
Well, it's not just that. I actually quite literally made this background.
Oh, nice.
Fairly simply. I don't know how well it's going to... It's got texture to the background, and...
I kept seeing my reflection, so...
Well,
shiny.
That's fair. So yeah, and yes, it is laminated as well. It's on slightly thicker card. I've done 2 of them, obviously. It's 2-sided.
Very nice.
Because the miniature cards now have all of the stats and everything on them, I realized that I didn't need to have because my old version of this had like the weapon templates and everything on it as well, because I kind of felt like it needed to be there. But I've realized because I just couldn't figure out what I needed to have on this. So my solution was, well, I'm better off to have too much than not enough. And I realized putting the weapon stuff on there is now pointless. The card literally tells you what it does. So I removed that, and I've basically put everything else. So this here is the table that kind of like if you're turning corners, how to do that. These are generic stats for the miniatures, which at least at this point, because the game's kind of changed rather significantly recently, I felt was kind of important. This will ultimately be removed for final versions because it won't be appropriate to be there. Down here is the gun shooting, I think. Yep, that's ranged attacks and how they work. We got the rules up here for if an NPC evades, and then focus and stop, and down the bottom we have the general idea of how your gun works, because some guns have like a 90-degree arc, some of them are 180, others are all around, and that's just trying to show that off. So that was probably the better part of a day and a half doing all of that. I did most of this in one day, and then realized the moment after I shared it in the Discord, the group, and I shared it in 3 or 4 different places, and then I've instantly realized, oh, I didn't put a title on that. That's kind of important. I should probably say that it's a quick reference guide, even though clearly that's what it is. Also, I was originally calling it a quick start guide, which it's not. This is not quick start rules. It's a reference sheet.
Yeah.
And that was just, I just labeled it wrong. So I immediately deleted all those posts, fixed it, and then redid it again. So. And then the big thing behind me. This is not miniature related. Any guesses?
The
caution tape is a hint, but...
I was going to say, it's either your film equipment or firearms, but you're in Australia, so it's got to be film equipment?
It's Ghostbusters stuff.
Oh.
Hence the caution tape. So this is my HasLab that arrived 3 weeks ago now, I think. There's a video on Toy Reel of me opening it up. And this is the PKE meter and the trap, which is both really cool. So why am I showing it off on a miniature channel? I don't know. I just thought people might find it interesting. Just a giant foam case so that I can keep it protected.
A holster and everything.
Oh, yeah. It's cool. I like it.
That is really fantastic.
So, yeah, it's been... Most of this has been pre this week, because I spent the last week being sick and trying to get better. But, yeah, I've kind of got a lot done. Also, I found my turning templates for Entropy City, so I can start playtesting again.
Oh, good.
What's the rule of trying to find something, George?
It's the last place you look for it.
No. The rule is that you will find it when you're looking for something else.
Oh.
Which is exactly what happened.
The rule is also it's always the last place you look, too, because it's the last place you look and you found it.
So I was trying to find my laminator for these, and then I found it underneath the box.
I'm sorry, you have your own laminator?
I do have my own laminator. It cost me like $30. It was great.
Wow. I don't even have my own laminator. I have something for Cthulhu Death May Die that I need to get laminated because the way their solution for it's a dashboard for the dual god in the season, the exclusive stuff.
Yeah,
they fold it up into a 4 thing instead of like just a cardboard sheet in the box.
Okay.
Really irritating.
The reason I own my own laminator is that to get something laminated here is like $4 or $5. And you can buy your own laminator for like $20, $25. It's like, well, when I'm developing my own game and I'm probably going to be laminating stuff to make it last semi-frequently, I would be stupid not to just buy one. I mean, am I going to do that when I publish the game? No, of course not. But at this point, it makes sense. Because otherwise, nothing will survive any time. Like, if it's just paper, it's going to be destroyed before I get wherever I'm going.
Yeah.
So... That's why I actually bought that I bought that fairly early on in the process. Then you can get expensive laminators, but they're not expensive generally. Just buy a cheap one. So yeah, that's it.
Talk nerdy to me.
Given that you stepped away, I figured I would too.
Good deal. Okay, so the importance of basing.
Yeah. So, first up front, there's probably going to be some things that we'll talk about that you'll disagree with us on that. We will probably discuss things that we disagree with on each other. Mm-hmm. Basing is a part of the hobby, and therefore potentially can be, controversial is the wrong word. I just want to say up front with this subject that realistically, you will never be able to please everybody with whatever the decision is that you do. They're your miniatures. Do whatever you want with them. Otherwise, let's discuss.
Yeah, one of the things, too, with basing is, some of these people, they're going to tournaments, and you have to have a display board. The display board has to tie in with the basing so it all looks cohesive.
Yep.
And I'll show show one style that I did with a friend of mine for his army, where he did win a first place painting medal. I'm gonna go ahead. If you want to put me full screen, Bruce, I'm gonna switch over to my phone camera and I'll show off a Stormcast Eternal that I have based.
I don't have the option to. I don't have the option to do that.
Okay. I guess just make me as big as possible.
I don't have the option to do that.
The two, just the 2-camera view, right?
I've just got the 2-camera view.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So I've got one of my Stormcast Eternals here, right? This is pretty straightforward basing.
Yeah.
It's the base, super glue, some texture,
yep,
and a couple of flockings, right?
Yep.
This model does have a tactical rock attached to the foot, but with my choice of basing, I'm okay with that tactical rock because I'm able to get it fits in with what I've got here very well. And this is good, solid, simple basing, right?
Yep.
Now, here's where the issue I have with it is. It blends in with the model. It's similar to the color of the model. It doesn't stand out and make the model pop.
Yep.
Which, when you're basing, that's part of the thing, it's just like your basing needs to add to and accentuate your mini. And while that basing does look good, a lot of people said, I got second place painting with it. Essentially, I myself and the guy that I helped, we were both up for first, but he won first in the tournament. I won best general, so we both got knocked down on painting. So
yeah.
Otherwise, I was up for a best painted because I had all the things. I had more than 3 colors. Everything was done. The basing was good. Everything was cohesive, and it worked. But yes, it's too close in color. It doesn't contrast enough, in my opinion.
No,
so
that's fair.
What I'm going to show you next now is one of my Space Wolves, and I think this is what I try to do for all of my basing now, because it does work so well. So let me switch back to my phone camera. So here's my Space Wolf, right? So I went with the Heresy color scheme, more of a darker gray, not the little light blue. But then look at the basing. It's brilliant. It's white. You can see where the mini starts and the basing starts. But then also, I've given it more texture and terrain and feel with the cork board on top of the base itself. And when you look at it from here, all I've done is give myself a height disadvantage.
Yes.
But if I have a display board and I set that down to the display board and there's cork surrounding that with flocking, it blends in flawlessly.
Ties in very well, yeah.
And for me, even though it gives me that 1/8 inch of height disadvantage of making my mini taller, I think it's worth it to make my mini look that much better basing wise. Because now it's not just stuff glued to the base. I have dirt. If you look very closely, you can see I've added blue for the frost line.
Yep.
There's different colors of brown for the dirt. It's a more in-depth basing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do with my Fire Slayers. I'm going to do cork. It's going to be painted oranges and reds and yellows for lava. I'm going to do the crack effect. That's what I'm going to do for the basing on that, because that will look better for the minis. It will also have those bright, warm colors with that black contrasting with a flesh tone mini.
Yep. I'm going to go back just a little bit. Well, no, quite significantly. So, this is a miniature. This is one of my Kroot. It's based fairly straightforwardly. I have picked a ground that's somewhat contrasting to the miniature. Maybe not as much as your snow was, but that's fine.
Well, to be fair, Space Wolves are easy to get a contrast with
because it's grey, yeah. But how much better does that look compared to my Treeman, which is not based at all? Well, that's the difference you're looking at.
Well,
that's why you base them.
Let's take that Treeman a little further, right? Let's say you at least took the time and repainted the base black again.
Yeah.
It's
I just
still
haven't
not
done it
going to
yet.
look as... Yeah, it's still not going to look as good just because It's a plain black plastic base.
Yep.
So basing can do so much because it gives you like why do we do the color schemes we do? You know, to stretch the detail out as much as possible. The detail is like this, and by doing those color contrasts, we stretch the detail like this to give it more depth and more feel.
Yep.
Your basing is an extension of that. It takes it from sitting on a black surface to a field or, you know, a wasteland or whatever. It stretches it that much more, and just adding that detail under the mini makes the mini feel more real because it's in an environment instead of a flat surface.
Yeah. The word is immersion. It helps you get more immersed into the world.
Yes.
Now, I said that there's going to be some controversial things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a problem with trying to base your miniature purely and simply to win a painting competition. Do you know what that problem is?
What's that?
There is no right way to base something. You are stuck on the whims of whoever it is that ends up judging it. Because for everyone that turns around and says that, well, you need to have more contrast, there'll be somebody else that turns around and says, well, yeah, but now he stands out and he's the... Like, if you were in a historical base, for example, you would not be wanting... Let me finish. If you were in a historical base and you did a contrasting effect, you would get marked down for that because that's not what would happen in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for everybody that likes the hobby scenic stuff, and I am one of the people that do love that hobby scenic stuff, there are people out there that hate it because it's not painted.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you can't paint... Well, no, that's not entirely true. You can paint a grass tuft. It's not worth painting a grass tuft, I would argue, but that's an opinion. And this is where I'm saying, this is where you're going to get some controversies, because you cannot please everyone.
Uh-huh.
I lean towards preferring contrast personally. There's either one of two ways you can go about it. Your contrast will either be because it's completely opposite to what you've done with your miniature, or because it's textured but plain so that what you've done with the miniature stands out more. Because you also don't want it to distract from the miniature either, right? Because if you have this bright, really bright contrasting base with a fairly dull looking miniature, then it looks like you haven't finished the miniature.
So I'll go ahead and turn this back on real quick because I think these are...
You've got good examples, yeah.
So, yeah, the Stormcast Eternal, you know, it does look finished, and it does fit. And this is one of the, you know, very first things that, you know, when I, you know, took a lot of time and spent painting it. And you could argue that, yeah, that white on that Space Wolf really does pull away from the Mini because it's white.
Yeah, but it's supposed to. That is the point with that.
But it's supposed to, right?
Yeah.
So and it works out really well, especially with the color schemes I went of, you know, that Mini really just pops off that base and says, "Look at me."
Yeah.
You know, the Stormcast Eternal, it does kind of blend in.
It does kind of blend in. Now there are ways that you can fix that without changing too much. Like you could probably fix some of that with the dry brush, or just going over it with a color that's like make it more brown and less grey, I suppose. But you're kind of stuck because everything around it is already finished, so you kind of you kind of get stuck with. I'm not telling you to fix it at this point, by the way.
Yeah. No, I'm not. So here's the thing too: the Stormcast Eternal, when we were displaying it, was on a plastic board that was black, dry brushed with grays and whites and all this stuff to fit in with this texturing.
Yep.
So when it sat there, it looked finished, complete, and cohesive. The basing served its purpose.
Yep.
When you compare it to the Space Wolf, I mean, the Space Wolf, in my opinion, and because it's my stuff, but the Space Wolf looks like it's been based much more deliberately than the Stormcast Eternal was.
Yep.
Like, more thought was put into this than this. And just for everyone out there, all that basing is Army Painter stuff.
Yeah.
Of all the things Army Painter does, they make great paints. There's other paints out there. But if you're wanting to look for basing, just start at Army Painter and figure out what you want, and then see if there's different options. Army Painter has got the best generic line of basing materials, I think.
Either that or Gaming Scenics. I really do like the Gaming Scenics stuff.
Yeah. Now, in the case of my Space Wolves, I've done them for the purpose of, if I ever make a display board, I can cut out the cork sheets, I can set them down in it, have all that flocking, which that'll be expensive to do. But I could stick them in, and it'll be this white snowfield, and you'll see little lines where the bases are, where they go in, but it will be one cohesive thing. It's not going to be a miniature sitting on a board.
Yeah.
Which, when you do that, if the person doesn't like your basing, if you've taken the time to make your basing blend in with the display board so it looks flat in one thing, you're still going to get points for that.
Yeah.
Because you took that extra step.
It is also probably worth noting that, and this may, I'm not the guy that judged it, so I can't say for sure. But it also can be sometimes that it's not so much that you lost because you wasn't as good. It's that the other person won because they did something that just looked that little bit better. Like, there was just something else about it that pushed it just that one step further that yours didn't. It doesn't necessarily make what you did bad. I mean, yours still looks nice.
The TOs for that, they were specifically like, one person was not walking away with all the prizes.
Yeah.
They specifically...
So
I was knocked out of painting because I won Best General. I was not ever going to win Best Painted. I did not get Best General because if I'd won, like my buddy did, there's no way he was getting Best General because he won the tournament. So,
which is a fair way to do. Like, there's no wrong way of doing. No, there is wrong ways of doing tournaments. But I like when you try, because if you go to a tournament and one person just kind of steps over everyone else.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you had your weekend wasted or the day wasted. I mean, you haven't, but it is how the human mind works, right?
Yeah. Well, consider the prize support. They were giving out like $60 to $80 Warhammer kits for prizes too. So it's not like they didn't want someone walking away with $200 worth of prize support. So
yep.
Now you've actually put a bullet point on this.
Yep.
Chance for George to rant about pre-sculpted bases. This is why I don't like pre-sculpted bases, because this is what I do.
Yeah.
I don't want... Here, I actually have them sitting right here. Here's some of my Fire Slayers. I have to figure out how to make that basing work with the lava theme I have. Because of this. I don't want this. I understand not everyone is going to take the time to base.
Yeah.
There is a large enough percentage of the people in this hobby that they're going to base and want to have cohesive basing. They don't want tactical rocks for the sake of a rock on the base.
Especially when half of the time it's only done so that you can have a leg higher in the air.
That's okay. Because you can cut that off.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing.
Real easy.
When we've commented on this in the past, generally speaking, if it's a piece of the terrain that's easy to remove, we've usually given it a pass. Or at least said, look, we don't like it, but at least you can remove it quite easily.
Yeah.
But when it's something that, like, completely integrates halfway up the leg or is just and you can't remove it, then it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm. Now... That being said, too, though, and I'll use the Stormcaster Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff they like, this is just a rock, but some of the stuff they have is the Gothic stuff and everything.
Yeah,
that's ruins, and that is very easy to fit in the Sigmar fantasy basing concept of
the ruin can be found anywhere, so
it's part of a ruined arch.
Yeah.
great. If you're doing grass flocking, you grass flock around it, and it's okay. This is a giant skull he's standing on.
Yeah.
How is a giant skull going to be surviving in lava?
Yep. I mean, it's a magical skull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now to go back to what you're saying, we'll throw out there Napoleonic, because to me that feels like that's the really big one.
That historical.
Actually,
wise.
no. Let's not. Let's do Flames of War.
Well, just World War.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm doing Flames of War because I know that game, right?
Okay.
So the base thing there, right? I'm talking about contrasting, making your model pop. Flames of War, it's a historical game. It's probably the more what's the word? Widely known historical.
It's either
but
that
are
or
you going to have
action.
your basing? Yeah. Are you going to have your basing pop? No, because the whole purpose of that was you don't want to stand out, because standing out gets you shot.
Yep.
There's a reason why the officers always get shot first, is because their rank insignia stands out.
Yep.
That's why in modern combat, if you look now, officers, their rank insignias are muted and matte now instead of
the shiny gold.
Well, so if you look at Saving Private Ryan, right, Tom Hanks' character, he was a captain. It was white captain bars on a green helmet. That stands out. Now it's a darker muted color, so it doesn't stand out, so that they don't get offed right away.
No, that's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
So for something like that, you want to make your basing fit with. So if you've got a Sherman tank, well, you want to put some shrubbery around it. You want it to blend in and hide, because if you're in a Sherman tank, yes, you're in a tank. That's great. There's bigger tanks that'll turn your tank into a tomb, so you want to still be able to hide from them while still being able to shoot at the other stuff. So, there's certain games where it's like, no, you want your basing to blend in. You want your basing to break up in disguise. You want to actually do what people have done in that, because that's how you survived. That's how you won. So,
unless of course, like if you want to paint your stuff up so that it's a little bit more pulpy, then yes, you could get away with contrast. But otherwise, like if you have like a green foresty type texture, then you want plains or grasses and shrubberies,
right?
And
because
that's what would make sense in that world. Like, there's no point making the most accurate paint job known to man if it doesn't fit with where you've placed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it all depends on the game. And something where it's completely made up. Infinity.
Yep.
Warhammer.
You can do whatever you want.
Sigmar 40K. Conquest. Whatever. Do that contrast. Make your stuff pop out. Immerse the detail. But your historical stuff and your accurate stuff, historicalize it and accurize it. Like, do that thing. And again, like you said, it also depends on the person's opinion. I guarantee
100%, yeah. Which is why I started my comments with what I did. Because at the end of the day, if you're just doing your basing to please everybody else, you're never going to be happy with them. Because you're never going to please everybody else. There's always going to be somebody that has an opinion that doesn't match with whatever you've tried to do. Like, you can have the most beautiful looking snow texture in the world, and somebody will eventually turn around and say, yeah, but it's not painted, is it?
Yeah. I mean, does that look like a Space Wolf to you, as you know Space Wolves?
Sure.
Right.
I mean, it's meant to be grey-blue, right? Yeah.
Well, it's like a skyish blue. It's a very light blue. Again, putting on bright armor makes no sense. Put on darker armor so you can blend in better.
Yeah, and that's why they're your Space Wolves. I mean, there's only one good Space Wolf, and it's a dead Space Wolf.
Here, let me show you. So I've got a couple of unpainted ones. underneath it all, it's the same colors as Space Wolf as it starts out. You just put skill in a bottle on it, and it dulls it down the way I want it to look.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So when it comes to your miniatures, base them how you want them to look. My recommendation would be is that when you're trying to figure out how you want to paint them, that should be part of what you're wanting to do. Create the world in your head first, and once you figured out how you want to paint them, then figure out how you want to base them as part of that discussion. Don't paint them up first and then have to try and figure it out. My recommendation would be to figure out the basing while you're figuring out how you want to paint them. I mean, if you're new to the hobby, that's different. Then, take things one step at a time, sure. And if you're new to the hobby, sure, just start with something very simple like sand and maybe dry brush it up or something. A lot of what we're talking about with contrast and stuff, realistically, is once you've been in the hobby for a little bit and you want to start pushing yourself further. What happened?
I went to go put him back, and I found another guy that had fallen off his base, so I'm glad I actually pulled those down.
I thought you dropped it or something.
He just fell off.
It happens.
Which leads me to a problem I have. What did I do with my Custodes, Bruce?
Strip them.
No, my Custodes?
Oh,
the shiny gold?
Yeah, aren't they the ones that fell up that you dropped?
I got them all put back together.
Oh, okay.
But they're shiny gold, right?
Yep.
Okay, what do I base them with now?
As something as dull as possible.
Okay, but how do I do that and still make it contrast? Because if I do gray,
the contrast is the opposite. It needs to be as dull and boring as possible, because otherwise it's going to try and compete, and it can't compete with the shininess.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it doesn't have to. Yeah, I see why you're bringing this up. It doesn't have to just be about the color.
Right. Because what's the other thing I'm doing with the Custodes too? Right. What are Custodes? They're gold. What color are their capes?
Red.
What am I using for their red? Scale 75, which is what? Yeah. Very matte. So I'm already doing that on the mini. So where do I balance that in the basing?
I would either stick with a ground earth type color or a grey. But I would make it a very cold color, whichever decision you make it. I would make it a cold color, not a warm color, because the gold and the red are already very warm.
Do you know what the other thought I've had is, which totally does not make any sense for the army though?
Sure.
Grass, green.
Yeah. Because it contrasts with the red. Yeah.
That's not a part of the mini. It's gold, it's silver, it's got the red, it's going to have those darker metallics. There's
also,
no
to
green
be fair,
in it.
in the lore, they don't just fight around the temple anymore. They have actually ventured out as well now.
Yeah. So
you can get away with that.
But I mean, it's that's one of the things that I've been I've been stumbling with too, is how do I base the Custodes? Now, my other army, yes, I have my Sylvanas. They're trees.
Yep.
How am I going to base them? You know what? I'm going to throw everything out the window, and I'm going to do grass. I'm going to do shrubbery. I'm going to do bushes. They're going to be trees, and the base is going to look like a forest that a tree lives in, and it's all going to blend together. Why?
Because that's what they are.
Because that's what they are. So everything I said earlier about contrasting, immersion, nope, that's going out the window for the trees because, So it's a case-by-case scenario. It's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Also. Because, I mean, for lack of better word, this is one of the greatest things, too, is Speed Freak's army. Mm-hmm. He did it like Mario Kart. All the basing is asphalt and stuff like that. It worked so well. And because he did that, and the vehicles look like Mario Kart stuff, he could have done he could have done a Rainbow Road basing for all he wanted, and I think that would have been even more brilliant.
Yeah.
So,
it'd be a nightmare to paint it, though.
If you have an airbrush and are good at masking, no.
Fair. The whole masking's not the solution there, though. Because realistically, what you want to happen is that you want it to blend.
Yeah. So you mask it off to do the colors.
Oh, and then
you
blend
peel
it
it
afterwards.
off,
Okay,
and then you blend it with like a whites and grays and stuff like that to, like what that one guy that I can't stand watching his videos because they're so amazing.
Is it the Illuminatrix or whatever?
Yeah.
Elementrix or...
I love watching his... Because just like any of these really skilled painters, he makes it way too easy. Look way easier than it is.
Yeah.
But the way he makes it look easy, it does look just easy. Like, there's no reason why you can't do it because he makes it look so easy.
Yeah. To finish off with this subject is where we probably are going to upset some people, right? Because this is where we're going to get into some opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So, as opposed to basing, styles of bases. Now, first and foremost, if you need to use the bases that come with your miniature or that come with the game. I know that there are some people that will deliberately not do that, and they do it to annoy people. I would not recommend to be that person. Upsetting people just for the sake of upsetting people is not a good thing. But yeah.
Also, too, depends on the tournament, because if you are in a Games Workshop sanctioned tournament...
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Your base has to have Games Workshop on the bottom of it, because size creep. If someone's doing a slightly smaller base, like just 2 mil difference,
it makes
that gives you 2 mil plus 2 mil plus 2 mil on getting stuff piled in for close combat.
Yep. When it comes to styles of bases, square versus round, I can tell you my opinion is round, personally.
Well,
I'm just talking about what you prefer aesthetically.
Without a doubt, aesthetically, round bases look better because it showcases the mini. Like, here's the base, here's the mini in the middle of it. Like, everything is even and uniform around it. If it's a larger base, you've got some texture on it. The mini is still in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a square base, that
it looks like it should be. Square bases are for things where it's supposed to be with other things, like fantasy and.
Yep, no, for sure.
Yep.
Which is one thing that I like about what Conquest is. I think it's Conquest. They have the round base that the mini sits on, but then it goes into a movement tray that's square.
Yeah, I really like that as well.
That's thinking right there, because if you're showing off your mini, it's on the round base, it looks good. When you're playing the game and it needs to be in that formation, it goes into its little square base thing and it's good.
Yep.
That's I don't know if they did it on purpose like that, but I'm going to say they did, and that's brilliant.
I could be wrong on this, but I think the main motivation for that was because they wanted it to be 2 games at the same time. Because there's the Flesh and Blood... Not Flesh and Blood. There's the normal Conquest, and then there's the skirmish version, which is just the round bases. And the idea is that you're supposed to be able to use it for both games.
Gotcha. So, the next question too, Bruce. Do you like the normal flat angled base, or do you like the rounded base? Yeah, see, there's the... Personally, I think the rounded base looks so superior. That is also part of the reason why I do the corking.
Yep.
Is because it covers up that gross angled base.
I personally have always preferred the round-lipped bases. Mm-hmm. It's just a personal aesthetic thing. I really... It's not that I don't like the beveled ones, but there's just something about that round profile that always... It's almost a plinth.
I would say it feels more premium.
It feels more premium, yeah. The downside of that, of course, is that it kind of limits the base sizes that you can get, right? Because it's like it's 30, and then it's 40, and then it's 50.
Yeah.
I will say, however, I have a friend that quite literally designed his own bases because the game that he's developing is on square bases, but he wanted them to have round-lipped edges. So he sculpted his own. It looked really nice.
I'm trying to picture a square base with rounded
With a round-lipped edge. Yeah.
You have to get a picture and send it to me because I cannot picture this is hurting my brain. This is my cat. This is my kitty.
They're both your
The
cats.
other
That's
one
why
is
they
his.
hang out with you so much.
No, this is mine because this one is just like a bunch of garbled together parts. Nothing on her matches. She also doesn't bite me viciously when I touch her.
To be fair, that's just cats. So yeah, basing is one of those interesting subjects because basing can be as simple or as complicated as you ever want it to be. There's no wrong answer really, with the exception of not doing it is, yes, it's probably the wrong answer. In saying that, I have actually personally painted bases to look like they have terrain on them. And it has worked. It's really hard, though. I did that for my Beast Wars stuff. Not Beast Wars.
I will say, depending on the aesthetic you're going for, and also depending on the game, sometimes you don't want to do any basing. Rot Fleet Commander.
Yes, 100%. I have one for you. Clear acrylic bases. Where do you sit on them?
So I was actually just about to mention that. There's it's a small percentage of the community, but the Cthulhu Death May Die page I'm on Facebook, I would say at least a fourth of the people on that page pop off the bases for all the miniatures and put clear acrylic bases on them.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I'm not a fan. Just personally. I understand why people are. I would prefer to have a real base personally. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying how I feel.
So and here's my defense of it, and this is the only scenario I'm going to defend it in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of Cthulhu Death May Die, and I will throw in Massive Darkness 2 and these board games, okay?
Yeah.
Because these board games, in certain cases, they have, cardboard tiles that they're on. And if you go through and paint the minis and you put that clear acrylic base on, it gives that immersion feel more.
Which is usually the argument for it, yes. Because it means
you have this painted miniature on the cardboard with a base that is trying to minimize its presence so that it can sit on the tile better.
I will give you the other scenario of why people tend to do it with some armies. So you have a really nice Space Wolf army there, right? And it's all done up really nicely on snow basing.
And then I go play on a grass field.
You're going to play on a grass field or a desert or it's some lava-based thing. And then
anything that's not white.
Yeah. And then for some people, that just ruins the immersion for them entirely. So the reason they do the acrylic is because it just helps them with that. It's never because people are lazy. Well, that's not entirely. Some people do it because they're lazy, but that's actually a much smaller percentage than people think it is.
I just look at I've bought this kit. I've got the minis, I've got the bases, I paint, I put together, I'm done, right?
Yep.
Okay. To go through the effort to buy all the correct size clear acrylic bases, and then on top of that, to glue them together to where you don't outgas and mar the acrylic with the super glue. That does take effort and commitment to do that.
I have never been able to get a miniature onto a clear acrylic base without the gas having I've never been able to do it. It's always ended up gassing. I know that's because I'm doing something wrong.
It's airflow.
But it's definitely part of why I don't like them. Because it's always the image that's in my head.
No, Bruce, it's just airflow.
Yeah. I'm just admitting part of the reason I don't like it.
yeah, I used to glue like $100 optics onto metal, with glue, and to keep that from happening, you have to have air moving so the particles coming off the glue that settle and stick get blown off and can't.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is super glue, put it on the acrylic base, and literally just have a fan blowing so nothing can like stay stagnant.
That's fair. The other side of it is that I've also never had them successfully stay there. They always seem to come off those bases all the time.
Well, here's a prime example. I open up my army box.
It does happen anyway.
This is not attached, so
yeah.
Well, the same thing's going to happen with acrylic.
I find it happens more with acrylic. Was more my point.
Yeah,
because it's all shiny, right?
Well, it's a smooth, more flawless finish, so it can't. There's nothing surface-wise to touch or attach to.
And again, I'm not sitting here and saying that it's the wrong thing to do. If that's the aesthetic that you like, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very expensive way to build an army, though. Especially if it's on Warhammer 40k scale. But if that's what you want to do, go right ahead. It'll never look out of place on a table ever again.
Did you imagine doing that for a fantasy?
Yeah.
Those little square ones.
I have never heard a judge that looked favourably on it, I will say that. Judges tend to not like it. Generally speaking.
Again, and I think it's if you look at this, I did put effort into that. It's not the best effort, but I've put effort into it.
Yeah.
A clear acrylic base, I've spent money on it.
Yeah.
That's it. So.
From an aesthetics point of view, from a judge's point of view, I think part of the problem is that... Because there is effort that has to be put into it. Like you mentioned, the whole airflow and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is effort, and it takes time to do. But it's never something a judge is going to appreciate.
But it's not visible.
Because how could they? No, that's my point. It's nothing. It's something that a judge will never see.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of talked this to death at this point, though. Get into the comments. Give us your opinions. If you have a particular like of base, if you think we've said something that doesn't make sense in your head, get down there and have the conversation about it. That's quite literally why I brought it up.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I think basing is such an underrated part of the hobby that could do so much for a miniature.
Yep.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
Hey George. You know how we downplayed Socks there for a little while because he accidentally used the wrong name?
Yeah.
Just to spite him, because he did it. Let's actually say the wrong name just for a second. The Strike Team Commander Kickstarter happens on the 26th of February. Drop Squad.
Oh yeah, Strike Team Commander. Yeah, that game.
Yep. But they accidentally get the name wrong sometimes.
Yep.
So 26th of February is when that's going live. I don't know what time of the day. I'm expecting it'll probably be as I'm going to bed, most likely. What I can confirm, I've been teasing the fact that I have 2 videos holding until it goes live. The first of those videos will go live on the day that goes live, most likely at least several hours before the campaign goes live. My hope is that when people see the Kickstarter and want to kind of find out more about it, hopefully it helps with my video. I can just hope, right? It probably won't work out that way, but this is a game we've been excited about for a while.
Very excited about. So excited that our next episode, we are exclusively talking about this Kickstarter.
Yep.
And hopefully we can maybe talk to a couple people and get some expanded nuggets of information about said game, considering that they're not using the name that we gave them
for free. To be fair, like we've never actually touched on in an episode why they changed the name. Because it was called that at some point. There is actually a very good reason why they changed the name.
We did talk about that. It was because people in the warehouse we're having issues differentiating between zone and squad because it's drop something. So that they were looking for something to stand out, so it's not just drop, drop, drop.
Yeah.
So
which is a very good reason to do it, right?
It's the only acceptable reason for why they aren't calling it that, and I'm mostly okay with it. And
yeah,
I'll still consider getting the game.
Oh, I'm definitely getting the game. March Malifaux happens on March the 16th at the Gaming Arena in Coburg. Adepticon is on March 26th till the 30th. Jeez, that's coming up quickly. It's happening at the Baird Center in Milwaukee, so don't go booking hotels in Chicago. It's not going to work.
Yeah, if you do go to Adepticon, travel about an hour west to Valhalla Hobbies brick and mortar location.
Actually, yeah, good point. Yeah, they should definitely do that. It's an awesome store. Salute is happening on Saturday the 12th of April at the London Excel Centre. And ArcFest is happening on May the 3rd and 4th at the Sandown Racecourse in Melbourne. And the thing that's not on this list, because it was announced last night, PAX Australia has been announced for the 10th till the 12th of October. In Melbourne.
Just to go back to ArcFest real quick, it's going to have 40K, Age of Sigmar, Middle Earth, SBG, The Old World, Infinity, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Arc Open.
Arc Open is their painting competition, just for the record.
Gotcha. Okay, I was like, I don't remember hearing about the game, but there's a lot of games there. There's something for everyone there.
Yeah, the last couple of years they've really,
Socks.
because Arc was famous. It was pretty much the largest tournament in Victoria, if not Australia, there for a long time. And then it kind of waned, and then it kind of came back again, and now they're trying to expand into pretty much everything, right? Because Warhammer isn't the only king anymore.
They're trying to become the Adepticon of Australia, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah, and that's probably the biggest chance that you'll... Because, I mean, as much as I love PAX, but PAX is largely a video game convention with some tabletop stuff slapped onto the end of it.
Yeah.
It's not the focus of that. Unfortunately. But, yeah, that's what's coming up. Why don't you talk a little bit more about this store that people should visit when they're going to Adepticon?
You mean Valhalla Hobby? That's in Verona, Wisconsin, about an hour away from Milwaukee.
I do, yes.
Sponsor of Getting Tabled. They have a great selection of stuff. I still have the page open. If I go to my other Chrome window, and I click on the tab. Where did it go?
That website is at www.valhallahobby.com.
It is. I still have it sitting up. It is the Inara's Judgment themed warband for Bushido. I still have it sitting there, so that when I have the disposable money to get that faction, I can hit add to cart and ship. They have Bushido. They've got Army Painter. They've got
Conquest.
They've got Conquest. They've got all the other stuff too. Your Warhammers and your Magic the Gathering. They've got all that stuff on their site too. But it's the stuff that's not so common that we like to talk about too. Armored Clash. I think they're gonna stock that on shelves. They've got Dystopian Wars. I mean, essentially, if you can think about it in this hobby universe, there's a good chance they've got it, and if they don't, they can. We talk with the owner in Discord occasionally, and he's got a lot of great insight on the owner end of this industry, and it's really really great to get his input on this stuff sometimes. So we just want to say thank you to him and his store for sponsoring this and all the other episodes of Getting Tabled. On top of that, we'd like to give a shout out to our Patreons. I haven't thought of a better term, so I'm going to keep using it. But for $2 a month, you can become a fumbler. And
by the way,
podcast.
You said tabler at the start of the episode.
I meant to say fumbler.
No, you did. Yeah, I know what you meant to say.
Yes, please consider becoming a tabler for $2 a month. Becoming a tabler for I meant to say fumbler, and I can't think of a better word, and until we do, I think fumbler is it.
Well, we did ask the question, and nobody had any objections to it.
So, become a fumbler for $2 a month to get early access and to the video version and access to the recording as we do it live for $2 a month. So, we don't have any other tiers. We don't have any other fancy stuff. Just $2. That's all we ask. If you want support, that's great. We appreciate it. Rewind again real quick back to Valhalla Hobby. If you use the code TABLED at checkout, you get 5% off an order over $100. I think that's
your first order over $100.
Well, yeah, your first order, yeah. So yeah, thank you again to Valhalla Hobby for sponsoring us, and thanks to all of our fumblers.
You can find us at patreon.com/gettingtabled. Like George said, you get early access to pretty much everything that we do. In the case of the video version of the podcast, this goes out live to our Patreon the day that we record it, but it goes out live to the rest of the world on the following Thursday. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/gettingtabled. You can also find us at gettingtabled.com. Thanks to Valhalla Hobby, we actually have that. Our main social media presence is on facebook.com/gettingtabled. However, you can also find us at gettingtabled on Twitter, Instagram, and Blu-ray. We do have a Discord. There'll be a link down in the description that you can use.
Blue Sky, you mean?
Isn't that what I said?
You said Blu-ray, which is a video format.
Well done, Jason. And Blu-ray. If you'd like to reach out to the team for any reason, whether it's that you want to ask us a question or you'd like us to talk about something, or hey, maybe you have something that you're trying to get the word out there for, you can email us at gettingtabled@gmail.com. I have a Twitch. I use it casually. I did a stream about a week and a half ago. I haven't done one this week because I've been ill, but I'll probably do something in the next week or so. Twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce. And as I teased earlier, I have videos at youtube.com/toyreel, which is action figures. And in this case, cosplay stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
Play more games. George is yawning because he's tired.
I am tired.